Welcome to the Valhalla Filmcast, a show where normal guys talk about the films that they love. And here are your hosts, Bryce Thompson, Brian Hammond, and Cody Ryrie. Now get ready, because the show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Valhalla Filmcast. I am Bryce Thompson. I'm here with Cody Ryrie.
How's it going?
And we are Brian-less, but that's okay for now. He'll be back. But today, we are going to talk about aliens.
That's right. Wow. Yeah.
We're going to talk about aliens in the fact that Voyager has been stocked with stuff to give them.
At least it was like 20 years ago. But yes.
Yes. And it's just been the anniversary of when they launched it, right? Like
it was a couple weeks ago or something like that. But yeah. Uh-huh.
And so we wanted to talk kind of about, they put music and like art, to show the best of us, the world, humans. And if we needed to put a movie on there to show these aliens what it would be, what represents us, or what we want them to think we are, what would it be? We started this conversation and we had a hiccup immediately.
That's right.
At first it'd be, so we send this off and these aliens take it up. We need to know first, what kind of aliens are these? Are these aliens looking to, blow up our planet?
Yeah.
Or are they nice?
You got to ask yourself, is this E.T. or is this the nasty things from War of the Worlds? That's the question.
Yes. That is the question for this show. Hopefully we will get an answer to this question.
You'll find out just as we do. So
so I think that it's completely different. Either way, it's completely different. I mean, you might be able to find a movie that you can send to both of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, we kind of brought that up
I don't know.
off mic before we were talking. Is like, well, is there one that does both? And that's... No, I don't think so. But
I don't think so either. I'm just going to throw this out there just because it's been eating at me. The movie that I would want to send, I'm just going to get it out of there.
Okay.
Just to let it sink in, would be Saving Private Ryan.
Okay.
And this, I have good reason for this. I think you could maybe get it to both. One, it shows that, hey, look, buddy,
we're freaking brutal if we need to be. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we know what we're doing. We blow each other up, so watch out. But it also shows that, hey, we care because we'll go and take care of each other as well.
True.
And so that they could be like, hey, look, don't mess with us, we'll mess with you. Or it can also say, hey, look, if you want to come and hang out, hey, we'll hang out with you. So I think that it can, and I love Saving Private Ryan. I think it has tons of good messages in it. But that would be the movie that I would like.
That
to
is
send.
an interesting choice. I can't really argue with your logic there. It actually kind of pans out. So,
but that would be my one movie that I think you could send. All the others, I don't really know of any other that I can really think of right off the bat without diving into it.
The Voyager, they put on like Beethoven and like the sound of a kiss. It was one thing too, and like other sounds from the. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
okay.
So, but we'll get to that. We'll get to this whole like, what is the highest achievement in film craft that we could send? We'll get there. But the question I said, to get to the stuff that really concerns us first. It was, I thought immediately, I was like, okay, if they're angry aliens, then we've got to show a movie where the world, mostly America,
which is America.
Mostly America kicks trash to some mean aliens, right? I was like, this would be a perfect, like, hey, look, what happens to you? You come down here wanting to start stuff, as Will Smith says, But then I thought, that's a bad idea, because all the alien invasion movies I thought of, Independence Day, War of the Worlds, Signs, To make the movie work, you've got to have a really good second act. And in Act 2, the aliens kick our trash. Bad. In Independence Day, they blow up everything. And in War of the Worlds, it's even worse. Yes. It's like, this horrible nightmare September 11th scenario all over the world at the same time. And then we got to come back triumphant. And I'm like, well, while that works for dramatic structure, it sucks for like a don't mess with us, because it's like, well, these guys, when they came before, they dang near kicked our trash. And if it, in the case of Signs, if it hadn't have been for dew on the corn, or like little girls leaving glasses of water everywhere, then we would have, But if I'm an alien species that's not wholly and terribly allergic to water, then I'm like, well, screw that. But they liquefied when water touched them, and they almost won. So
yes.
We're gonna kick trash. So
yeah, it's like giving the opposite team your playbook.
It is.
This is how to defeat us. And I think you're onto something there.
So you can't send that.
It has to be a movie.
You can't send an alien invasion movie. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, you're just giving them like, hey, look, here's how you destroy us. We'll give you every.
Well, and here's what the other teams did wrong. That's what it's always.
Yes, exactly.
So no, you can't do that. Can't do that. I thought about this. I thought about you send like some really terrible horror film, right? So, for example, you send them Psycho, and you say, and that's just one of us, and look what one of us did, like you were saying to Sam Ryan, one of us did to his own kind, Imagine what hundreds of them or millions of them will do to you. And, so that's
good.
That's one idea. Something like that. Something really scary that's about some kind of horrible serial killer or, some kind of horrible other kind of scary thing. It's the idea of putting gargoyles on the outside of the church to scare off the demons. You've got to really put the fear into them. And that made more sense than the Alien one, because the scary thing in the Alien movie is not us. It's the outside. So you want us to be the scary thing.
So, okay, or you could do, another thought that I just had would be the opposite.
Okay.
So you don't show them, you need like a movie that shows like a strong character, like a Rocky.
Okay,
like that,
okay.
It shows someone strong, but it's not like we'll blow you up, like come fight us. It's just like, hey, look, we're a tough race. We'll be good allies.
That's right.
Destroy
cool
us.
Runnings.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, Cool Runnings. Perfect. Why not? Who would not want to be friends with those guys? It'd be.
That's right.
Why would you not? It'd be awesome. But maybe like a movie that doesn't just show like, well, we blow each other up all the time, but we're peaceful and we like to get along with each other, and come join us and we'll all get along together. Something along those lines. You could send them a movie like that. I can't really think of a movie off the top of my
Well, I'm having a third thought.
It's like that. But
You put it in my brain. You're like, well, all right, we can't appear like an easy target, but maybe, like you're saying, we also don't want to be like, yeah, we're looking for a fight. Come on down.
Yeah.
So what if we tried to find the most boring movie in the history of the world? Like some movie that made Earth look so uninviting. And how about this? What if it was like An Inconvenient Truth, like the documentary on climate change? Like,
ooh, yeah.
First off, it's really boring. Second off, no offense. I'm sorry, no offense. Second off, it gives the impression that we're going to destroy the planet anyway. So you don't want to come down here.
The planet's done.
Because it's all getting trashed.
It's a waste. The planet's
Mad
a waste.
Max would be a good one to show. Because who would come down for that? I mean...
Like, these guys are crazy.
And that's not we're looking for a fight either. That's like, okay, they're crazy, and there's nothing there. There's nothing worthwhile that's worth coming and invading.
The point? They're insane. They paint themselves white. They drive in these things. I don't even know what that is.
Well, I was thinking of... I love this movie, so it's not really a great example, but it is for a lot of people. The Straight Story, the one from Disney about the guy who drives his tractor across the 2 states.
Yeah.
A lot of people find that movie like watching paint dry. So maybe that would be a good. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so boring down there. Like
they don't even like finish. Halfway.
What are they doing?
Like
It's like, oh, let's. All right, just go around. Just go around. You know.
I think we are onto something. We are onto something. Send them the most boring thing. But if they're nice, we want them to come in.
See, if they were nice, that one would work too, though, because it's like, oh, look, they're so quaint. You know, they're this. Just
look, they're boring. They need our help.
That's right. No, okay, but if we want to talk about peaceful aliens, this is not the one that's the highest of humanity, but we know they're peaceful. Then you got to sing Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or E.T. You got to go to Spielberg
E.T.
if you want to have if you're going to interact with friendly aliens, because you show either one of those, you know, E.T. shows up and what happens? He gets a family. You know, like
yeah.
We adopt him.
That's true.
You know, like he's just one of the guys after that. So.
Very interesting. So I just thought of one movie that is an alien invasion movie where it kind of goes our way would be District 9.
That's true. That's true.
It kind of goes our way, but then it's kind of like even. So if like you send it to them, they'd be like, "Hey, we might have a fair shot. I say we give it a try."
That's true.
We'll
it does. It does. The aliens never really get the upper hand in that one. There's, you know,
not really. You know, I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen District 9. But do they come to attack Earth, or do they just come?
No, they're just refugees. Is the idea. The whole thing is this big allegory for refugees, which actually would probably make it very timely right now if you were to rewatch it.
That'd be interesting, huh? But yeah, so it would be kind of like... Also, it'd be like, look, if you come down here, you're not going to win, and then you're going to have a crappy life.
That's it. And we'll make it suck. You know, that's...
yeah, just stay away. So I think we have quite the list. These aliens are going to have a lot of
got a lot to think about.
Yes, get it.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, who are these things? What are they? They're so confusing.
Well, okay. Let's dive into the hard question then. If you know, like, if they're like, okay, music, we got to send Beethoven because it's the highest expression of music. What is the highest expression of film? You know, if we're going to put it on the Voyager...
That's such a hard question.
What is it? I think the only reason they didn't put it on the Voyager spacecraft is because there was not a compact enough version of it. Does that make sense? Back then, they could put a record, and then they had to put something to play it, and that can all fit on the spacecraft. Back then, you couldn't put a projector and a reel of film. You know, that's just too heavy and there's too much. Now you could probably put something on there. So let's say they're going to release a probe now. We're going to put it out there. What it represents the highest art when it comes to film?
Well, I think since, I mean, IMDb can go either way with it, but since it's kind of run by people in a way, let's start with the top movie on IMDb, Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, is it still? It's been top movie for a long time. A long time. So Shawshank Redemption, I think that'd be very interesting to vote that to go up, because it's an interesting movie. Yeah,
you know, it's really good. It's really like well made
in every category.
Very interesting.
Like you look at every you keep tick off acting, cinematography, editing, writing. You know, it's all top notch.
Yes, and so that'd be very interesting because, I mean, it doesn't really give the impression that, you know, we're nice, caring people. It doesn't really give the impression that we'll blow your face off. I mean, it doesn't really give you like any
and if we're
who we really are.
Even if we're even eliminating that and just talking about high expression of art, it definitely falls in the discussion. It has to. It's
definitely.
I was thinking like. And again, I can't get away from the what would this communicate, but if I'm trying to put that aside and just talk about film art, I think The Godfather has to be mentioned as well.
Yeah, that's the Godfather's number 2 on
Hey, really? List. No crap.
Yeah. And part 2 is number 3.
Is it really?
And 4 is Dark Knight.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Those are your top 4.
Huh.
I know, I find it very interesting. They all have their certain pieces that make them amazing movies.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's really interesting that The Dark Knight is rated so highly. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved it, but I just don't think of it. I guess because it's newer. That's probably what it is. The other ones are older. What's number 5, just out of curiosity's sake?
12 Angry Men.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting. Well, I wouldn't send up The Dark Knight because I think that I love it. I'm not trying to insult it, but I think when it comes to like classical filmmaking, there are much better examples.
I agree.
So,
I agree. I think you can't. I don't want to send up like Fight Club. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I'm not sending.
It's not the highest expression of what
work.
film can achieve, though. I don't think.
No, exactly. And so that's a very interesting.
I think it might be Shawshank Redemption. The more I consider it, I can't think of a movie that I would be like, yes, that movie does all the things that movies are supposed to do better than Shawshank. You know, I mean, it's not my favorite movie personally, but if I'm trying to step back and say, okay, movies, they're supposed to achieve empathy in the person, you know, that's watching them. It is basically the best example of that we have produced in the 100 or so years of film that we've been making movies, I think.
So let's jump over to Rotten Tomatoes just to compare.
Sure.
Their top movie is The Wizard of Oz.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And then their 2 is The Third Man, and 3 is Citizen Kane.
Third Man is number 2? That makes my day happy.
Yeah.
That is in my top 10.
And so those are all very interesting movies. I mean, like Citizen Kane, I mean, there's lots of people that argue that it's like one of the best movies made, you know? And so, especially like in its time period.
Sure. I think the only thing that Citizen Kane lacks is, for me, it lacks emotion. And Shawshank definitely doesn't lack emotion. Shawshank brings the emotion in spades. The Wizard of Oz is an interesting choice. I feel like The Wizard of Oz is a very, very solid choice.
Oh, yes.
You know?
I agree. I think I would be okay if we sent The Wizard of Oz. Like, I don't necessarily love the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm not really going to sit down and watch it, probably ever. But I'd be okay with that. I'd be like, yeah, that's a good movie to send.
Well, and as a piece of, like, film that's so well made, anyone can watch it. I mean, an adult can watch that film, a child can watch that film, and it's so visual and it's so well done that everybody gets something out of it. So that gives it an edge in that, if that's part of your criteria. That's interesting. The Third Man, as much as I love The Third Man, I did not expect it to be that high up. I mean, it's kind of a niche crime movie. I guess The Godfather's a crime movie too, but it's so much more than that I don't ever think of it as just that. You know, I think of it as family and fathers and sons and husbands and wives and all those things. They just happen to be an Italian crime family, you know? So.
Yeah. I think that, that's the best movie that is in art and storytelling. That's a hard question.
Well, again, out of curiosity's sake, what were Rotten Tomatoes? Do they have 4 and 5 as well?
Yeah, they have 100 as well, but 4 was All About Eve, and 5 was it's in the Cabinet of Dr.
Caligari.
Yeah. But it's in the special language that it's in.
Well, it's a silent film, actually, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Well, number 6 is The Godfather. So that's kind of interesting.
Well, okay.
I think that. That's.
If you pin me down, if you say gun to my head, we got to pick one. I think you send Shawshank because I think that it's a more emotional movie than Wizard of Oz. It brings more empathy, whatever else. But if there's room for 2 discs on the spacecraft, then I think you send both. Wizard of Oz is the runner-up for me. So
I think that gives a good contrast as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it gives like 2 sides because I mean that's the hard thing for me is film covers such a wide range. You know, like Shawshank, it's not dancing down a golden path to meet some wizard dude. Though, I mean, Wizard of Oz has its dark times, but Shawshank doesn't really have that many, bright points. Really.
Well, it earns its ending, which is bright. But yes,
definitely. But I mean, getting through it, you're.
Well, that's a very interesting point you make too, because film, you have to represent, old and new, I think as well.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, you have to represent what it does really well, which is bring emotion and empathy, but also you have to represent the other half of that, which film also represents imagination very, very well. Worlds that don't exist, things that only exist in the mind. And if you do both of those, then you get both of those. You get early film, you get late film. You get fantasy, you get more drama and realism. I think they're a really good pair to send.
Yes. I think that one thing that I was just thinking, that since you brought up the point, was I feel like we need a Pixar movie to go up. I think that it just we'd be doing the aliens a disservice to not send them, because name someone. I mean, Disney has their animated movies.
Yes.
But name someone that doesn't love a Pixar movie.
It's true. It is universal.
Everybody loves Pixar.
But that's a can of worms there. Which Pixar movie do you send?
Exactly. I don't know. Don't ask me. Because
the answer is WALL-E, by the way. But
we discussed this actually. We did.
We didn't talk about sending it into space, though. I mean.
Yeah, but isn't that kind of the same thing? You have to show someone
one Pixar movie,
tell them what they're all about.
Yeah,
that's one. Interesting.
Well, okay, but fair enough. I concede the point and still go back to Wizard of Oz and Shawshank. So
yeah, those are the movies we're sending.
Okay,
those are the movies we're sending. I was just adding on that Pixar would be another good pick if we.
And we are ignoring the world of animation, but there's got to be limits. I mean, this is a limited spacecraft. This is. I mean, can you imagine that the process they went through for the music choice, though? It's like, okay, we've got hundreds of years of music. We've only got, can only send 15 minutes worth. So, what do we pick? I don't know how they did that. That's impossible.
So, let's go back. I mean, let's, because they sent Beethoven, you said, right?
I think that's what Mozart, Beethoven, one of the great composers.
Classical,
yes. Uh-huh.
Right. So that's kind of like where music really started,
From what we consider it now. I mean, I don't know if they sent tribal drums or anything like that, but yeah.
Exactly. So let's go back and let's think about, is there a trace of movies, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Let's find a movie that kind of started, gave us a base of movies where we are now.
That's the biggest argument for Citizen Kane, is that movies learned their language that we still see today from that film. That was the turning point of. I don't know if I buy that argument all told, but that's what you hear a lot. Is that came
so? Don't
from
you think? Don't you think that would kind of be the movie that would probably get voted to go on then?
Well, I would fight for I would fight for Birth of a Nation, which is a much earlier film, D.W. Griffith, and talk about that, or Life of an American Firefighter by Edwin S. Porter, which was the first movie ever to show one story and then you cut to another story that's happening at the same time. That had never been done before. And that's the birth of film language. And then you add Birth of a Nation, which was basically the birth of the way we watch movies now. Now, it sucks that it happens to be about the Ku Klux Klan, but history, messy. But that is, if you're talking the language of film, you've got to go back to, I think, those two examples. And then if you want to talk about the more specific things we use now, you get to Citizen Kane. But
interesting, because I think, like you said, those movies are the very beginning.
Yeah.
But I think if you had a committee of people and you're actually voting for this, I think, Birth of a Nation is going to get voted out, not because of what it's actually doing, but from, like you said, it's about the Ku Klux Klan. So I think it's going to get voted out just based on that, whether that's right or not. Like, obviously it's bad because it's Ku Klux Klan. But,
very unfortunate. Yes.
Yeah. And so I feel like that's going to get kicked out just on that. And then,
well, and the other example I gave,
Kane,
the Life of American Firefighter, it's so early that it's almost, it's like sending cave drawings up, like it's.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a very important thing, I think, to look at and recognize, but if you're only going to send one and it's going to represent that, it's too early. It's discovering itself, and so you have to go past it a little bit.
And so I think you're going to get Citizen Kane to be voted for. And
probably.
Be the one that wins.
Yeah.
But I don't think that does movies justice. I don't think it does film justice, and I don't think that represents it the best. I mean, music is kind of the same way. There's so much music, so much different stuff.
Tough, because if you want to go with, like, if you're somebody, said to me, hey, what is the Beethoven or the Mozart of movies, or the Fifth Symphony or whatever. We're talking about, not the author maybe, but the piece of work. So what is the Beethoven's Ninth? I don't know anything about music, but like the most famous piece of classical music. Then you're going to get things like Citizen Kane. You're going to get more likely things like Casablanca, and Casablanca is like the movie that a lot of people cited as the best movie of all time for years until Citizen Kane took it over. But Casablanca, I think, is maybe a better choice because it's much easier to watch, and it's a movie that brings a lot more emotion and has great characters. And it's not just its strength is not a technical exercise, which that makes Citizen Kane sound bad, and I don't just mean to limit it, but for me, if you say Casablanca or Citizen Kane, or you say what's the classical music of film, I say Casablanca. That's the one that has lasted the longest. It's the one that we see had an influence, I think, more than Citizen Kane did, because it was much more popular upon its release, and it stayed popular. Citizen Kane, people discovered it in the 70s. Basically, years and years later. So that's why if you're going to do that kind of discussion, I would go for Casablanca before Citizen Kane.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that feels better to me. That feels more
it's more like it's down with the people. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Like it exists. Yes. Can a film professor look at Casablanca and say that's a great piece of art? Yes. Can a regular person watch it and say I really enjoyed that was good? Yes. Citizen Kane doesn't cross that divide as easily as Casablanca does.
You can't just watch it. You can't be like, hey, let's watch Citizen Kane tonight. Just
get the popcorn. That's right.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
And I think that's important.
I feel like Casablanca,
for film.
You can kind of do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
Film has always been the medium of the people. For a long time, people argued that it couldn't be art. You hear that a lot with video games now, actually. That, it's impossible. It can't be art because of what it is. And I think you need to represent that. That, yes, it can be. It can be art. It can be for everybody. I think Casablanca does that.
Yeah.
So
who directed Casablanca?
A guy named Michael Curtiz. He was a good director, but more of a studio guy. Actually, that movie works not so much because of his vision, but because of how it all kind of came together. It's kind of luck, actually, a lot of it. So
I think we kind of just decided what movie to send up would be Casablanca, because you kind of have your Beethoven-y-ish feel.
Yes.
It kind of goes along with what else was sent up, and you can connect with
it's more accessible. Yes.
Yeah, more accessible. And so I think,
all right.
I mean,
I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with leaving Shawshank and Wizard of Oz here and sending Casablanca. So,
and we'll show it to them when they get here. I'll be like, hey, you like that one. Just wait.
Okay, that's a good choice. I think we can settle on that.
Yeah, I think that works, and I'm excited for them to find it, because
It represents
great.
the highest of what film can do. Yep.
Yes. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed the journey that we just went on. We hope that you're still listening.
We hope by adding mystery at the beginning and you have to listen to the end that it makes you listen to it. That we learned that from the news. The news always announces like the most interesting story and they save it to the very end. You've got to like listen to all the other crap to get to it.
Ugh,
So
that's so annoying. I'm sorry that we did that.
that's us. We've become that.
All right. Well, we hope you join us next time. I am Bryce Thompson.
And I'm Cody Rowry.
And we'll talk to you next time.
The following views, opinions, and commentary are the sole property of the Valhalla Filmcast. Any unauthorized reproduction without prior consent is prohibited. Any incidental music, audio clips, or film trailers are used for the sole purpose of film criticism and commentary as allowed under the Fair Use Act.